If a real estate agent had contacted them and explained this to them, even though they loved the neighborhood they were in, they could have sold their house, bought the one across the street, and not paid any taxes and still taken advantage of the next 20 years of appreciation. So in my opinion, someone screwed up along the way by not educating them as to the financial mistake they were making. This is also a reason why I don't generally advocate anyone living in their home for 30 years, because rarely will you fall within this exemption in that period, right? Normally over 30 years, you will exceed your $500,000 cap.
Cold, people are miserable. It sucks when you stand outside in the snow for an hour. I've been doing it often, and I'm not a fan. But
just to show property.
Just to show property, and then it's even better when they end the open house and you didn't get to go through.
Is that real? That really happens? Oh man, that's crazy.
John,
yeah, what's up, Chris?
I was going to say, John, at the beginning, you mentioned kind of a downside, less time to chit chat. It's actually not true, because when they're waiting to get in the house, you have them captive right in front of you for 5 minutes while the next party's coming through. So you actually get to chit chat more with like any given party.
Oh, you're not in the house. You're the door guy.
I typically stand like outside at the door so that if somebody else needs me, they can holler, but I'm still moderating and policing the outside.
I would love to see you in that outfit that Hugh Jackman wears in Greatest Showman. You could have a little ringmaster outfit for your next open house. I think that would be a crowd stopper for sure.
I didn't know this was going to get creepy today, Josh.
Sorry, man. It's always creepy. Sorry, only when you show up. All right, cool. So we were kind of talking about the Dan and Kyle call and some of the takeaways. The follow-up to that one, the Shakes and Trees email, which I will get you guys a copy of. They're supposed to post it in Fast Forward group. Dan Beer is in Mexico right now drinking Mai Tais and pina coladas and some shit. So as soon as Dan puts his cocktail down and uploads it, I'll share it with you guys all. But in the meantime, the follow-up to that is really cool. It's a Survey Monkey. So after you send that email out, you get everybody coming through and everything else, then you send a Survey Monkey out, which just has 2 questions. And the 2 questions are like, what do you plan to buy or sell property in the next 24 months? And then honestly, who even cares what the second, Joe, do you remember what the second question was? I didn't pull it out of my notes yet.
I don't remember offhand.
It honestly doesn't matter. You could just send a 1-question survey. Hey, market conditions are changing. And it's all in kind of how you set the survey up. But it's basically like, would you do me a favor and answer this quick 2-question survey? It'll take you 30 seconds. And then, of course, anybody who says they're going to buy or sell property in the next 24 months, they go on a minimum of a monthly follow-up so that you can touch base with them. Because when they say it within 24 months, they really mean within 6 months. And then you go from there. I liked this quote, which is, it's not a buyer's market or a seller's market. It's an agent's market. I thought that was a really cool quote. And what they mean by that is like your ability to navigate your relationships with other agents is what's going to determine your success or your failure. So, yes, it's a seller's market, but it's not, right? Because it's all about the agents. The deals that are getting done to get, on the buy side or the list side are the deals that are getting done because agents have relationships with each other. And the more you can build your relationship with other agents right now, the better off you're going to be. I've heard of agents that are now sending like gift packages and stuff to the buyers agents who win the deal, because they know how hard it is to represent buyers right now. And so they're sending them like a little congrats, you got your deal accepted type thing when they get a deal accepted on their offers or on their listings. And the reason they do that is because they want to be kind of known as the go-to listing agent who everybody wants to work with. On the opposite side of that, one thing that people are doing to get their offers accepted that I had never heard before, that I thought was amazing, is in the cover letter. So number one, you have to have a cover letter of your email, right? It doesn't have to be a formal cover letter, but in the email, you need a summary. And so in the summary, you want to put the offer terms. Some people are even putting a few of the offer terms in the subject line so it stands out. So it's like, hey, all cash, quick close offer on 123 Main Street. And then they open it up and then they see the terms highlighted. So one of the agents on the call, top listing agent, said, if you make me open the PDF to see what your offer looks like, I'm already pissed off. Like, I want to know what your offer is before I even open the attachments. The other thing is like very basic, right? But they want to see pre-approval, proof of funds. They want to know that your assets are liquid. They want to know if you can cover the appraisal. Another thing that's really big is you got to read the MLS comments. So, are you really reading the details, or are you texting or calling? Like, these people are getting blown up. If you have a new listing, like Joe probably was just on the phone with somebody who wants to book an appointment at that new hot listing he has. He put it on today. He has 12 appointments booked already, right? His phone's going crazy. So do you think he wants you to call and be like, what's the showing instructions? I'm too lazy to read the MLS, blah, blah. Like, no, he doesn't have time for that shit. If he happens to take your call, you need to use that time wisely, right? So reference the fact that you've already read the instructions. Hey, I already read the showing instructions. I know you said you have 14 offers. You're reviewing offers on Monday. You want a 30-day lease back. Is there anything else I should know? I'm going to get you a great offer. I just wanted to introduce myself. I wanted to call and let you know that the offer was going to be coming, so on and so forth, right? Use your time with the listing agent wisely. And then here's the best tip, right? I buried the lead here. Just to see if Dylan was paying attention or if he was texting on Instagram. And so the best tip is in the email, write in there that that their agent did an amazing job. I just wanted to say, dear Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, thank you for considering our offer. Or dear Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I thank you for considering our offer. I just wanted to commend you on your selection of Chris Aguiar, close enough. Chris Aguiar as your listing agent. Chris did a phenomenal job preparing the property for market. The photos really caught our attention. He answered all of our questions. He made sure to point out all of the highlights of your home. And it made it very easy for my clients to decide that this was the one that they wanted to make an offer on. How many people are putting that kind of verbiage in their emails when they're sending an offer in? So in my experience, 0, right? I have received that 0 times. Why is that important? No one?
It makes the agent like you, so they're more likely to push you to their client.
Yeah. Do you think there's a chance in hell, no matter what offer you wrote, that they're not going to forward that to their client? You could write the worst offer on the planet, but if you talk up the listing agent and what a great job they did, they're going to send that thing over. The client is definitely going to see that one. So edify the listing agent, right? And do it in a way that that they can forward it to their client and make themselves look good. Your relationship with the listing agent, your ability to give confidence that you're going to get the deal done is probably the most important thing that you can do in, preparing, presenting, networking. Like, your value add is mostly just getting the other agent to like you. Of course, you have to write a clean offer. We all do. Client has to pay top dollar. We know that. So what's going to separate you at that point? What's going to make you different, right? Who has questions so far? And feel free to interject. This is your time to ask questions, guys. I have stuff I'll get to, but if you want to talk on specific subjects, don't let me go down the rabbit hole. Please pipe up, ask questions. Let me know you're paying attention. Everybody's driving or eating. Blair's present.
John, you made a great point about the agents liking each other, the listing agent liking you. I try to coach my clients on that too. Hey guys, everything matters. Like, if they like you more than they like everybody else, that might get you the deal. I had a deal I won because the agent liked my client better. So she gave me a hint about what I needed to be. She didn't tell me. She gave me enough information that she knew I'd pick up. And then she just had to focus on, is he going to be able to convince his client to waive that inspection? Yep. But the point is, she wanted to work with me and my client because she liked me and my client a lot. That matters.
It's always relationships, guys. Like it's always going to come down, no matter what you're doing, whether it's agent attraction or, you know, winning a buyer, winning a seller, you know, going on a listing appointment. Everything in this business comes down to likability and relationships and your ability to convey competence and value. And so part of that is really knowing your, you know, your product, knowing your business, understanding, you know, what makes you unique and how you add value and how you're, you know, you can portray that. And for a lot of people, if you haven't been in the industry a long time, you have to think about how to recraft your background to make yourself stand out as a viable real estate agent, right? Because eventually you'll sell a lot of houses and then you can lean on that. But until then, like I know Joe had to lean on his corporate background when he was first transitioning into real estate so that people would, you know, take him seriously, because he had a great, you know, business professional background in corporate America. And that translates, right? Everybody has something though. I don't care if you know, were a pizza delivery guy. You know, 100% of my pizzas got delivered hot, fresh, and without dropping them on the floor. If you can trust me to deliver your pepperoni, you can trust me to sell your house, right? It's not the exact script, but it's close to it. All right, what other questions do you guys have? Anything, or should I continue on? Kirsten's just soaking it all in. I'm sorry, Kirsten, I don't have beef Wellington jokes. I got the boring. I got the
some pretty good jokes,
today.
honestly. You got some pretty good
I got
jokes.
the boring jokes today. All right, here is the most important, ultimate qualifying question of all time. Would you guys like to hear? Who would like to hear the world's greatest qualifying question for buyers and sellers?
I would.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. All right, we have a couple of people. They bit. I'll take it. So the best qualifying question you could ever ask anyone of all time. This is when you're setting an appointment with them. So you're setting an appointment with somebody, you have them on the phone or you're texting them, you want to go meet with them for coffee to talk about buying a house, or you're going to come over to their house to go on the listing appointment. And before you hang up, you ask them this one magic question, and this is the only thing you really need to know. And that magic question is, what is the most important thing to you about the agent that you decide to work with, or the agent you hire for the job of assisting you with buying a home, or to take care of you throughout the home selling process, however you want to phrase that. So what is the most important thing to you about the agent you choose to represent you in buying or selling? Everybody get that down? So if you ask that question, right, what are they going to tell you?
Communication, for the agent to be present, for the agent to be knowledgeable.
Yeah.
They're going to tell you everything that they want, everything that you need to provide.
Yeah, they're going to tell you what they want. Now, Chris, what are you then not going to do?
The opposite of what they want.
Yeah, I'm not going to talk about the shit they don't care about.
Right.
So Chris might think that his, you know, glossy brochures or his QR code or his funnel or his drone video or whatever the hell he does is so special. He may think that's the coolest thing since sliced bread. But if they say, you know, I just want an agent that follows through and is you know, high integrity and a man of his word, and then Chris shows up 15 minutes late to the appointment, well, it's not going to go very well, right? Like if he spends all this time talking about marketing, but they don't care about marketing, they just want to, you know, they want to sell to an investor. They want to sell fast, right? If time is most important to them. So I'm looking for an agent who can get it done fast. And then Chris spends an hour and a half on his listing presentation. Is he an agent who can get it done fast? No. If somebody told me like, hey, I want an agent who can get the job done fast, I'd be like, great. Should I just send the DocuSign over right now? You want to skip the listing appointment? I'll have the damn thing sold this weekend. How fast are we talking? You want it sold today? I can get you a cash offer today. How soon could you move out? Could you be gone by Friday? You guys might think I'm like kidding, right? But these are dead serious questions. This is exactly the question that I would ask somebody. If they told me that speed was the thing that they were most looking for in an agent, I would immediately lean into speed and I would see how fast we could take that. And if I said, could you be gone tomorrow? And they said yes, I would know I have a dead serious, I got to get to Texas by Sunday type guy. And I would call 4 cash investors. I would get them the offers. They would say, no, we don't want those numbers. I'd say, great, you need to be out of here on Saturday because I'm doing a 4-hour open house and I'm going to have you 15 offers by Monday. Sign here, press hard, third copy is yours. right? Does that make sense to everybody?
Mhm.
Now, that goes along the lines with like, you have to know who you're talking to, right? So if you're talking to somebody that just wants the details and they want to just do they want to move fast, right? People who only like the bullet points tend to move really quick, right? Like a high D personality. So if you know you have that type of personality, you want to match that and you want to move quickly. You don't want to waste their time. If you take a high D personality and you try and give them an hour and a half or 2 hour presentation with a bunch of slides and nonsense, they're gonna hate you within the first 15 minutes. If you take somebody who has a high I personality, who is very interpersonal and wants to chit chat and be friends, and you come in and just start giving them statistics and data and facts, and you don't love on their, Tom Brady autographed jersey hanging above the fireplace, and you guys don't chit chat about the Buccaneers and all this other stuff, right? Like they're not going to relate to you. They're not going to want to work with you because everybody wants to work with somebody that's like themselves, right? So you have to identify. So this is part of pre-qualifying. You have to identify the personality type of the person you're talking to. And by asking this great qualifying question, right, what is the most important thing to you? You're going to have a good sense of what kind of person you have them on the phone. If you're talking about somebody who's just about the numbers, they're going to tell you, hey, I just want the net, the highest net. Okay, great. You want the highest net? Then let's just figure out how to do that. As soon as we figure that out, we'll have you, you'll sign right here and you'll be ready to go. Another thing I'm only going to mention just because it popped in my head right now, never answer the commission question before you meet with them in person. So a lot of times when you're in this moment of pre-qualifying someone and you're going through, hey, what's the most important thing to you, whatever, especially if they bring up net, a lot of times they'll just jump to like, oh, so how much do you charge? And then say, well, you know what, we have a variable commission structure. Has anybody talked to you about a flexible commission plan? And I'll be like, no. And then you'll say the magic words. That's exactly why we need to meet immediately. I would love to go over our flexible commission schedule with you guys. And that's the truth, right? Is all commissions are negotiable, which means all commissions are flexible. And if you have a way to present it, it's a great way to just say, hey, I got to get in front of you because I don't know what commission I'm going to charge you because I don't know what your house looks like. I don't know what your motivation is. I don't know what the plan is. I don't know what's important to you. I don't even know if I can help you. So that's the deal. Yes, Haj, I will send you the recording, no problem. All right. Any questions at this point so far?
Thanks, Jon. Sorry,
Yeah,
man.
no problem.
Thanks.
It's all good. Who has a question? Anything? No? How are we doing? You guys all look incredibly bored. My intent is not to bore you, I promise. But this is a lot more fun when it's interactive. But I can keep talking at you if you want.
Not
all right, what's
boring
next?
at all.
Not boring. All right. Quality information. Next is what else? All right. This one I should charge you guys for. Who has Venmo? Somebody, if you implement this idea, every time you get a client out of it, I want $100 Venmo to me, okay? Fair deal? I think that's fair for everyone. So this, I've never even heard this one until this week. This one I was like, holy shit, I gotta tell everybody. All right, so this is the ultimate Nextdoor hack. So you guys all know what Nextdoor is? Nextdoor is an app where you can interact with your neighbors. It's basically a place where you can go to lose faith in humanity. The conversations on Nextdoor are just about the most depressing thing I can think of. Yeah. So I hate Nextdoor, but it's a powerful tool. And the reason it's powerful is because it's geographically based and it connects to everybody within a certain proximity. So what you do on Nextdoor is you get your clients, and they will do this. So I have this on good authority from somebody who's a lot more successful than everybody on this call, including myself. They will give you their login info. So you take their login info on Nextdoor when you have a seller, and then you send out a message that says, hey, our realtor, Chris, is awesome. We just listed our house with him. He's going to do a neighbors only pizza and beer night. It's going to be this Friday from 4 to 6. I just wanted to hop on here to give you guys, my neighbors, the first shot at finding our next neighbor for the neighborhood. I really have enjoyed living here. I would love a great family to move in. Who do you guys know? Please send them. By the way, Chris's contact info, his cell number is this. You know, he told me he's not getting pepperoni unless you text him and you ask for it. Did you guys pick up on all that? So hey, we are going to take a listing. We're going to tell the seller, hey, we want to, you know, we do some out of the box marketing stuff. We want to make sure we get every possible buyer in the world over here to your house. I know you love the neighborhood. I know you love the neighbors. I'm sure you'd love it if somebody awesome moved in. Why don't we take your next door account? We'll do it for you. We'll just post this, or you can post it. I'll send you the script. It's really easy. It's one paragraph. Hey, Dylan's the man. He's holding a neighbors only. We want to give the neighbors a first crack at it. He's holding a neighbors only, open house, pizza and beer night. Come by, check it out, meet Dylan, bring a friend, send it over. Here's his contact info. Would love you guys to be able to pick your next neighbor. Has anybody ever heard of that concept or idea? No.
Not via Nextdoor, no.
Not
I
via
heard,
Nextdoor.
yeah, I heard something different where when door knocking was still a thing, you would, when you have the listing, you would knock and invite them all to a neighbor's open.
Yeah. And knocking and inviting to the neighbors open or whatever, that's a good idea too. And the other one I've heard is like a couple stage version of a mailed piece. So for the immediate homeowners, you'll get the seller's permission. You'll have the seller send them out for you. But basically you have the seller send a letter. You do it on their behalf, but it looks like it's coming from the seller. And it's like, hey, dear neighbors, I wanted to let you know I listed my house with Dylan. He's going to be putting the sign out next week. If you have anybody for it, please reach out. Here's his info, blah, blah, blah. I'm Tony. I drive the red truck with the German Shepherd. This is Dylan's info. He's amazing, da, da, da. He said, he'd be happy to talk to anybody else in the neighborhood who's thinking of whatever. And then some agents will go by with a little sticky notes and they'll go to all the neighbors and they'll say, hey, just want to let you know, you may have gotten a letter from Tony with the red truck. We're holding the open houses this weekend. Our open houses tend to be super busy. So if anybody's parked in front of your driveway, here's my cell phone number, text me. I'll make sure they move their car. And then what happens is all of the neighbors text him, but they don't text about somebody being in the driveway. They text to be like, hey, how much is the house? How's the open house going? Did you guys get any offers, right? It creates this other opportunity for them to get in touch with you. And then there's a follow-up piece, which the seller permits you. So when you take the listing, you get their permission. And then you just pop this in the mail as soon as it's in escrow. So you already sent the one that was like, hey, I'm Tony with the red truck and the German Shepherd. I listed with Chris, he's amazing, etc. And then the second one goes out after it's under contract and it says, hey, remember I told you I listed with Chris. Congrats, good news. He brought me 25 offers. We sold it for $50,000 over asking. Chris just earned the neighborhood a new record sale. He is the man. If anybody has questions, please reach out to him. I told him I would tell everybody how great he is. So now it looks, you're doing it, right? You're sending a letter out, but you got your seller's permission to do it on their behalf. And it looks like the seller is bragging about you to all the neighbors. You guys follow that? What do you guys think of that kind of idea?
Sounds like a pretty good idea.
If only I had a listing, right, Dan? Is that what you're thinking?
That's right. Only if I had
You're
a
like-
listing.
You're like, if I had a listing, I would work the shit out of that plan, but I don't know where to find one of those. So, all right. Has anyone on a listing taken a call anytime recently?
Yes.
Yes. Who took a listing? Can't see you. Paula. Paula, how did you take your damn listing? Tell the people.
What I'm doing
What are
right
you
now is
doing?
canvassing.
What the
I'm
hell are you
canvassing.
doing? You're in a neighborhood talking to people?
Yeah.
You're working?
I am.
You're working
I have my
and
little
you're on a
market
call
update.
learning? Oh my God. What does the
I
market
am.
update say? Tell us.
The market update says properties are selling 50 to 60,000 over. And there's a little tagline, sorry, I'm out of breath, that says, would you accept an offer from one of my buyers?
Cool. And so how long does it, give me the rundown. How long did it take you to put the piece together? How much did you spend making copies? How many homes do you canvass? Like, give me the skinny on the details.
Okay, quick and skinny, roughly 200 homes. spend about 150 to 200 on marketing. I do my own marketing. It takes me about 10 minutes to get the piece done. And listings, I want to say they're like 4 to 6 months in between each other because I had just had another one around the corner from the same thing, canvassing.
So it's not sexy, it's not expensive. It's just you do the work, you show up, you tell people what you're doing, and then eventually people talk to you if they open the. So do you knock or do you just drop?
So I just drop it off, and if they open it,
I just caught her. She didn't want to admit that, but now you just drop it. So did you
well,
ever
no,
knock?
I mean, I'm not gonna door knock. People are kind of sketchy about that. So if they
You have a
open it,
mask on.
true.
So here's the deal, guys. Door knocking. So in California, we're not supposed to door knock, but that's coming back. And mostly, you know, does anyone on here, do you ever get people who knock on your door if you're on this call? Everybody on this call gets people, they knock on their door. Do most of you open the door when somebody knocks on the door or not open the door? Yes or no? Thumbs
look
up
through
if
the-
you open
I
the
look
door.
through the window.
And then what?
Yeah, most of the time.
You don't open the door.
Because I don't want to be.
Yeah, he doesn't want to be bothered. So here's the trick. The only people who open the door are people who want to talk. If you don't want to talk to somebody, you're not going to answer the door. And so when you're door knocking, like if Pal is there, she's door dropping, you're already at the door. You might as well knock. And if somebody's super scared about COVID or like whatever, they won't open the door. Or they'll tell you to go away, or they'll tell you to leave it or whatever. So if you're already at the door, you should knock. And then the people who open it are the people who want to talk to you. And when you talk to them, you have a million times better conversion rate because not only are you talking to them about their plans and their goals and their timeline, right? That's really all you're trying to identify. When you're at the door, you're talking to anybody about anything, all you're ever trying to figure out is what's their most likely timeline. When is their next touch date? Oh, we're gonna move when our daughter graduates high school. Oh, cool. I hope she's a junior, right? No, she's a freshman. Okay, it's gonna be a while, right? But life changes, so you got to stay in touch with those people too. But if you're already at the door, you might as well knock and you might as well find out, you know, what their motivation is, what their timeline is, those types of things. And that stuff works, guys. So Paula's out there pounding the pavement, out of breath, listening to a coaching call, making her own marketing material, door dropping, and it's getting her listings. There was a statistic released just now. If you guys hit me up, I'll send it to you. Doesn't really matter. You can look it up, I'm sure, and see it. It's a map. It's kind of cool. It's the percentage of homes in each state across the country that sold for over asking price in March. California. So you guys want to take a guess? Let's see who's right. What was the percentage of homes in California in March that sold over asking?
99.
80%.
Those are too high. I like those. Those are fun guesses from out of state.
65.
64%. 64% of the properties in California that sold last month sold for over asking. That's crazy. That motivates people to put their house on the market. The best motivation to sell your house is a whole shit ton of equity that you'd like to go put somewhere else. There's another buyer. So this is actually a really interesting point. So who knows about capital gains? Chris, what is the deal with capital gains and your primary residence?
Well, it's different in every state, but if it's your primary residence, in Massachusetts at least, you can shelter 200 up to 250 or 500 if you're married.
So it's everywhere.
Taxes.
So this is national.
I
So
didn't
if you're
realize-
married,
I didn't realize that was
so, yeah. So capital gains is a federal tax, and the avoidance of it is a federal situation. So in any state, your primary residence, you can shield up to 250,000 if you're single, or up to 500,000 if you're married, of capital gains exposure. So if I buy my house for 250,000 and I'm single, and I sell it for 500,000, a little more because I'm going to have to pay a real estate agent and a few other things, but roughly 500,000. I don't pay any taxes on that gain. So my property doubled. I took a tax write-off on it every year when I paid my mortgage. And 10 years later or whatever, it doubled in value and now it's worth 500 and I sell it. I don't pay any tax on that sale. This is the only way you can make that kind of money in America and not pay taxes. You guys get this? It's a really big deal. Now, if I'm married, I have $500,000 worth of protection. So if I bought my house for 500,000 and it's worth $1 million, now I probably put a little money into it to fix it up, and I'm probably gonna have to pay some money to sell it. So call it $1.1 million, right? I buy it at 500, I sell it for $1.1 million. I'm at the maximum I can shield. Now, what do they do if it goes over the cap? If it goes over the cap, they have to pay capital gains tax on it. So if I bought it for 500 and it's worth 1.1, and now the values are going up, and it ends up being worth 1.2 or 1.3 or 1.4 or 1.5, well, now that extra 2 or 3 or 400,000, I have to pay capital gains tax on. It can be 15 to 25%.
What if they were to buy another property with that new?
Then they reestablish their basis. So thank you, Dylan, that you are my segue king. So that is what I'm driving at. So what you guys should do is you should research everyone in your market, in your farm, in your area, whatever you want to define as your market. Research everyone who has the maximum level of equity within the shelter of the law. So if they're single, they need 250,000 plus of equity. And if they're married, you want them at that 500,000 sweet spot. So find out, for instance, like if I did this, I'm in Irvine right now. So I would look in Irvine, I would go back in time and I would figure out how far back in time do I have to go to find out when properties were selling for 250 to 500,000 less than where they are now. To get to 250, I'd probably have to go back 3 or 4 years, depending on the price point. To get to 500, I'd probably have to go back maybe 10 years, right? Maybe longer. Pull all the homeowners who bought at that time and then market to them directly and explain to them the situation that they're in. Because what will happen is, like my in-laws, so this happened to my in-laws. They bought their house in the early 70s in Huntington Beach. They paid $50,000 for their house. When they sold their house in 2005 or whatever it was, they sold it for $1 million. They had to pay capital gains on half of that money because they didn't sell their house in the 80s or 90s whenever it was worth 500,000. They didn't sell it and move across the street. If a real estate agent had contacted them and explained this to them, even though they loved the neighborhood they were in, they could have sold their house, bought the one across the street, and not paid any taxes and still taken advantage of the next 20 years of appreciation. So in my opinion, someone screwed up along the way by not educating them as to the financial mistake they were making. This is also a reason why I don't generally advocate anyone living in their home for 30 years, because rarely will you fall within this exemption in that period, right? Normally over 30 years, you will exceed your $500,000 cap. So educate your database, educate people in your farm, go be proactive to tell people, hey, did you realize, like, there are people out there who bought in 2015 probably that have probably already hit this level, hit this threshold. And so you can go to them and be like, hey, did you realize, like, you bought at a great time? Definitely 2010, 2011, 2012, like there's a lot of people that bought at the bottom of the market that have now hit this threshold. And it's not a matter of like, hey, relocate out of California or out of Boston. And it's not a matter of, hey, you need a bigger house or hey, you need a smaller house. They may have the perfect house for them. But this might be the one reason that they consider actually making a lateral move at this time. Is that helpful?
Yep. So
good info, guys.
I have a follow-up question, and
Yeah,
forgive
please.
me if you answered it, but
No, it's all good.
so if they do, let's say it's like, we'll use a real life situation. I have a couple, a family in a pipeline who they have a condo that they bought in Somerville in 2011 for 250K. They were former neighbors of mine. My mom sold her condo she bought it for the same price, sold hers for 250 or for 500,000. So their house would be worth like 6 or 7,000 more, or 600 or 700,000. But if they were to be like, let's say they got $1 million on it, right? So there's 750 appreciated. How do they avoid paying taxes on that extra 250?
Is it their primary residence now?
Yeah.
So they would have to rent it out and turn it into a rental, and then they would have to do a 1031 tax deferred exchange.
Okay.
So they
Does it have
can't
to be a
avoid.
rentable
So
for
the
you to do
only
that?
way, yeah. So the only
Okay.
way you can avoid capital gains is by living in it as a primary residence, which means you have to have lived in it for 2 of the last 5 years. And so let's say they lived there for 2 years and then they moved out for 2 years and it was a rental. If they don't sell it in the next year, they lose that opportunity to shield that money. And so then it can only be deferred. So then those taxes are still required to be paid eventually. But what a lot of rich people will do is kick that can down the road because they defer the taxes to avoid losing some of their capital so that their investment compounds better. So if I take a $250,000 investment property and I buy it and it appreciates to 500,000 and I avoid the taxes and I do a 1031 exchange, I'm going to have more of an asset. I'm going to have 500,000 that's going to continue to appreciate over time. If I don't do the exchange and I pay the taxes, well then good, I got the taxes out of the way. But now I have less money going into my next investment, which means it's going to appreciate more slowly, right? 400,000, let's assume the same rate of gain, right? 400,000 at 10% increase, it's going to be 40 grand. 500,000 at 10% increase is going to be 50 grand. So it's not only that you have to pay the taxes, it's also that you don't compound, right? Your investment doesn't grow as quickly. And then take the last factor, which is the X factor of all this. So right now, capital gains are as low, essentially, as they've ever been. And the wealthy in America utilize capital gains. Actually, wealthy people prefer to pay capital gains over ordinary income tax because many times the capital gains rate is less than their income rate. So they will do things, right? They'll organize their financial plan to basically show that all of the money that they receive is basically taxed at a capital gains rate. This is why some of the wealthiest people don't really pay taxes. Well, that's what a lot of people want to come after, is figuring out a way to get wealthy people to pay more taxes, right? So one of the strategies that's been talked about for a long time is to raise the capital gains rate. If the capital gains rate was to get raised to 30 or 40%, let's say, and you had done 1031 exchanges all along the way, well, now it's possible that you kick the can down the road into an unfavorable situation for yourself. Now, you would know that that was coming, but let's just say that anybody who's sitting on a good amount of money with a lot of appreciation with capital gains, right, a lot of equity, let's say they've bought and sold properties for 30 years and they've done this tax deferred exchange strategy the entire time. Well, they have a lot of appreciation that they're going to owe gains on someday. And so that's the question, right? Are they ever going to liquidate that portfolio? Because if they are, now is the time. The alternative is to never liquidate the portfolio and only live off of cash flow, which is why people buy and hold property for an extremely long period of time. They depreciate the asset over time, and then they basically pay it off, and then it is just a owned, free and clear, cash flow positive asset that sits there. And the reason that they don't sell it is because they don't want to pay taxes on it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. What questions do you guys have before we wrap this up? No questions whatsoever? right, what'd you guys learn today? Some ahas.
Capital gains and 1031 exchanges.
Nice. You learned a little bit more about wealth management. And wealth management's a really important part of being a real estate agent. You know, a lot of people say like, hey, you know, okay, I'll sell my investment property, but what am I going to do with the money? I'm going to put it somewhere else, whatever. I tell a lot of people, I'm like, why don't you put it in Bitcoin? A lot of people look at me like I'm crazy when I say that, but like, depending on how much money you have, what your goals are and everything else, like might be a really interesting investment for somebody to sell an investment property and stick their money in that. It's definitely performed. It's definitely here to stay. We're seeing lots of inflows, tons of money coming out of things like gold, going into Bitcoin. So that's it. You know, just interesting. The more product knowledge, the more general financial knowledge you have of all people's options, the more you're able to educate the consumer on the specifics of, you know, kind of what they should be thinking about. And then the more you can talk to them like that, the more likely they are to trust you, and the more likely you are to create scenarios in which they decide that it is a good idea to sell their house, or it is a good idea to buy a new investment property, or whatever that ends up being. What else did you guys learn today? Dan, Kirsten, Blair?
Okay, I'll
Paula?
say something. Can you hear me?
Yep, Blair, what'd you learn?
I think I learned how to better utilize Nextdoor. I think that's a very powerful tool, especially if you can utilize seller's account. That will be way more convincing than you just coming in saying, hey, I'm a real estate agent, because the seller likely already have friends in the neighborhood. So the, you know, just like the connection as well as the trust is already there. So it's gonna be easier if, you know, the seller is posting an invite versus, you know, a real estate agent probably not from the neighborhood come and saying, oh, we have an open house. So just
Yeah, let me follow
Mhm.
that up with, if you're a real estate agent and you post in there, they will light you up, right? Like you will get roasted. So yeah, we definitely don't advocate you going in and kind of spamming the Nextdoor platform, because like I said, those people are generally terrible. So you want to make sure you use the seller's account and you make it feel organic.
Totally.
Cool. Kirsten, Dan, Chris, Mark, anybody? No?
I just learned more about the capital gains. I had no idea about that at all. So that was, I'm gonna research it more so I can learn.
Cool. And capital gains, in California, Prop 60, Prop 90, some of these law changes, you know, get with a great title rep and go over some of these things. A lot of the title companies have flyers already made of interesting real estate facts. If you go to your local title company, they should have like a whole year's worth of flyers that you can utilize. Things like 1031 exchange, Prop 6090, how to take title, trusts, just lots of really interesting kind of, I don't know, what you might consider kind of boring, but like when you drop them off at the door, they tend to be kind of conversation starters. So if you're going to go door drop, those types of legal / financial types of educational materials tend to be a really great thing to put on like one side or as an additional piece of information that you leave behind, because a lot of people again don't know anything about these, you know, these things, even though they should. And then you can be seen as the expert who can educate them on, you know, something more important than, hey, the market's hot. Like if there's a seller in America who doesn't know the market's hot, they're probably, you know, hooked up to a machine somewhere on a ventilator. So let's not just lead with that, right? It's probably not good enough these days. All right. Thanks, guys. This was fun. I appreciate you all hopping on this week. Hope you got some value out of it. If you need anything in the meantime, reach out to me. I'm happy to help.
Thank you.
See you guys.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
John.